What's going on, everybody? It's Big Matt from the Matt and Ty Show. We're going to do a little locker room special here for you. Just drop by. Glad you want to stop by here and check out another episode with me. I'm going to be reacting to Joel Klatt's interview with Coach Nick Saban. It's going to be a good one. Let's just jump right in here to it. Hey, if you're not already a subscriber to our page, there's no reason why you can't be. It's very easy. If you don't get any spams or emails, and hit the thumbs up on the video. If you like sports content, just hang out and watch the video. Tell me what you like and tell me what you don't like. Let's just get right into it. Klatt sits down with Coach Saban. Saban's always got some very, very interesting points and topics that he brings up. He brings a lot of valuable conversation to the brand of college football. And whether people that are not Alabama fans, they have the consensus mind thought that what he says is only going to be beneficial to Alabama. And that's just not true. So let's get over here into it and see what Coach Saban has got for us this time.
All we do is take the teams that win the most games at the end of the year and put them in the playoffs. But do you really get the best teams? You know, when they told me that we would be favored against 3 out of the 4 teams that got in the playoffs, I'm like, well, why aren't we in the playoffs?
Ouch. That's a good question. And we talked about some of this back during the season when all this kind of stuff was going on. And you know what? Anybody that keeps up with a game of college football or watches it even semi-closely, we could all say that Alabama would have been favored over TCU for sure, and probably Michigan also. Georgia, no, probably not. So, but the point he's trying to make is just because they're in the playoff don't mean that they might not be the best team, but it's who won their games. And I think actually people are just probably let's just be honest, people are sick of seeing Alabama play for the national championship. And people are sick, and that's why all this the reason this whole thing started happening. When Bama got the rematch for LSU that year, and Trent Richardson scored that last touchdown on the drive, that's kind of what got a lot of this started. And Bama and Georgia playing for titles, seems like it's just the way it's going to be. It just seems like Georgia and Bama's going to wind up playing for the darn thing all the time. So, I mean, Kansas State won the Big 12. Alabama beat them. TCU didn't even win their conference, but they won at the right time, and the media was hot on the quarterback, and it's just kind of how the way it worked out. And the 2 games that they did lose, they lose on last-second plays, and they played terrible. But, that don't matter. So, I mean, it is what it is. And he will tell you this is as quick as anybody else will tell you. We put ourselves in a bad situation in those games. We didn't put ourselves in a good spot to try to win those games. So, if that's the opening comment, let's get on in here to it, and I'm going to skip through some of the intro part. I like doing these reactions with Joel Klatt. He's probably one of my favorites, honestly, because I do a lot of reactions to him. Grew up military background guy. His dad was a coach, and I can relate. A lot of my family was military, and I don't know, he just kind of has a way about him. I don't agree with everything he says, but he's very intelligent, and I respect what he has to say, even though we don't agree. And that's the things you have to be able to do when you're being an analyst of a sports, or if you're in a political position in this country, you have to be able to take somebody else's side on it, listen to what they're saying, and be able to repeat back to them, even though you don't agree. And that's why I like doing these. So let's get back to Coach Saban here and see what all he's got to say. He's going to talk about some NIL stuff. And they kind of get on each other about, hey, you don't realize what it's like to be a coach. And Klatt's like, oh, yeah, my dad was a coach, and I am a player. So I do understand what it's like, to be a player part of it. But do you, Coach Saban, understand what it's like to be on this side? That I don't get an end game, that I prepare for hours and hours and hours that people do not see, exactly the time I put in. You guys, y'all kind of get put on TV, and people see your practices and see what you've accomplished. I don't really have a final score. I come in, I talk about the game. and that's it. Oh, thanks for coming by. So it's pretty good. Let's get into it.
Most influential people in the sport talking about the sport globally. 7-time national championship coach Nick Saban. Coach Saban, really thankful that you sat down with us and wanted to talk about the sport overall. So I appreciate your time. So I've only had the fortune of covering Alabama in a game one time. It was last year, and you guys were about to play Texas. We got to meet in our production meeting on Friday, and I asked you a question. You gave an answer I'll always remember and has impacted me in a great deal. But I didn't want to ask a follow-up to that question because it wasn't game specific and I didn't want to waste your time. But if I had more time on that Friday, I would have asked you about your answer about the chase and the capture. I asked you what you still love about this, why you're still going so hard, what you have left to prove, and you said, "Well, I guess I still love this because the chase is greater than the capture." Could you describe what the chase is for me?
Yeah, well, that's the process of what you go through to try to build a team, the process of what you do to try to build individuals to have the culture that they need to be the best version of themselves in terms of whether it's personal, academic, or athletic. And you view the game. That's what you cover. That's what you see, and that's part of it. But the work ethic, the discipline, the pride in performance, all the things that go into trying to help them be the best version of themselves carry over in their life as well. So that's the part that I enjoy. The whole
Basically, it kind of sounds like he's sold into the fact that he really just enjoys the idea of teaching these young men how to be great older men, and how to go through their life and to know how to deal with adversity. And winning is important, but there's other things to win at. Like winning in life, kind of like Jokic said that there's more to life than just basketball, those kind of things. So sure, and anybody can appreciate that, whether you're a fan of him or not. The team. I think everybody respects the idea of Coach Saban and what he's given to the game and what he's brought to the game, particularly this conference. And we're not even talking about the money that he's brought to it, but he still enjoys he just enjoys the idea and the fun of the chase, of getting up every day and getting after it, and that's what brings him pleasure. It's not. I mean, the winning is important, and that's the end goal. But what gets you up and drives you every day? I ask all the coaches this last year when I would do interviews with them. First one comes to mind. I asked Coach Howard this. He's the older coach in the county, and what gets you going every day? I mean, he's been very successful there and turned spring garden football around in a huge way. He's just uncompetitive. I like to win at tic tac toe, or I like to win it at cornhole, or whatever it is you do. And they have a competitive nature to them, and they enjoy the thing of teaching and getting up every day and going through it. And it's just kind of something that you just kind of have in you. Not everybody wants to transfer to a school where you're probably not going to start and have to fight for a position. And Saban strikes me as that kind of guy. Like if that was what was going on, he would be that kind of guy that would want to come in and compete for a position on team. He just kind of feels that way to me. Hey, if you haven't subscribed, by the way, go ahead and jump on there and hit the subscribe button. Try to help us get to 500 guys. I appreciate it so much. It would help add a lot of new things to our channel to help it get it out there to you. If you enjoy this content, hit the thumbs up. Tell a friend. Share the video. We appreciate it.
Whole process of developing, young people to have a chance to be successful. And it's kind of like climbing a mountain. It's a challenge. Yeah. It's an individual challenge, and it's a collective challenge for your team.
Okay, so a lot of talk about the sport and maybe what's going wrong or what needs to be fixed. But I don't think we focus enough on what's going right and what is working in our sport. What are those things in your mind?
Well, I think the first thing is, coaching is all about teaching. Teaching's ability to inspire learning. But I think
Yeah.
there's a lot of mentorship that goes on in coaching that goes completely unnoticed. We're really trying to create value for people's future by,
You notice he uses that word a lot, value. And I think what some people may not appreciate about Coach Saban, I think a lot of people, if they're not fans of the team again, I think they always feel like he's just always working. He's just always working because that answer, he always gives that answer. He always wants to talk about value because that's what he wants the kids to do. He wants them to stay there and come there to add value to themselves so they can become professionals because that's the whole goal. One day is to become a professional football player. I think it's interesting how he always adds those things in the process and the value. And, what is it even about? How do you even add value to yourself? Well, what do you want to do? Well, I want to play pro football. Well, do you understand, what that takes? And that's always something he always adds.
providing good leadership, um, trying to set a good example for them, be somebody that can emulate, care enough to help them for their benefit so that they have a better chance to be successful in their life. And, we put a lot and invest a lot into all that, whether it's personal development programs, academic support, career development programs, as well as trying to help them develop careers as football players. So I think a lot of that kind of goes unnoticed, but I think a lot of those things is what always made college football great. And it's helped a lot of young people in any sport have a better chance to be more successful in life, which I always thought that's why you went to college,
Sure.
to create value for your future.
And you bring up a great point about the support, and what's going on, not just on the field, but off the field, and supporting what they're doing physically, their mental health now. All of those things are, I would say, new in the modern day of college football, but they're really good for the overall health and well-being of our athletes.
No, there's no question about that. And I don't think that people realize how much we do invest,
Mhm.
in all those areas. And I think they're all good things that we're doing. Mental health part of it is outstanding for young people. The medical attention they get, the nutrition aspects that, we give them, the academic support that we give them. I mean, it's endless in terms of how we invest in players.
The Sugar Bowl this year, you were asked, do you think the 12-team playoff is going to fix college football? I thought you gave a great answer. You talked about, well, first you've got to tell me what's broken before we can talk about what's fixing it. Now, in your
See what I'm saying? The way he answers questions, man, it's like it's just he's just his own. He's just very wise, and he's just the old guy on the block now. So when you're asked a question, let's hit that again. He says, how do you feel about this 12-team playoff and how it fixes college football? And his response is a question as to the answer. Well, let's talk about what was wrong with college football to begin with. Why do we need this 12-team playoff? Maybe I'm overreading all this. I'm not crazy, but it seems that he's saying, why do we need to fix? Okay. So we're going to do a 12-team playoff. Okay, that's great. I can dig it. So that's just going to put more teams in my conference here into the playoff, which adds more value to the conference. That's why we're adding teams all the time. Texas, Oklahoma's coming, Florida State, and Clemson's murmured to be wanting to come. So why are we doing this? So what's broken? So what is the question there? What's broken about college football? College football is broken with this 4-team playoff because Alabama still gets in. The whole reason they started this was because of what I just mentioned earlier. It's the Georgia-Bama games back-to-backs and playing every other year, and Clemson and Bama and Clemson and Bama and Clemson and Bama. People were sick of that same thing, so they think, man, we got to open this up. And last year, it worked out perfect to where, because Bama just would have lost one game in Tennessee, they'll say, it's a huge rival game. They lost on a last-second field goal, and Tennessee beat them 15 years as a fluke. A lot of controversy around that last play. Kool-Aid picks the ball off in the end zone, and Bama would have the ball back, would have won the game. And a flag comes out once Kool-Aid's like down the 20 or 30-yard line. Very controversial. Game's over. You move on. But losing 2 games, they're done. Because, like I said earlier, non-conference champ got in. So what's broken about college football? Well, he's saying, I think he's saying, my opinion, I don't see nothing wrong with it now. I mean, we're getting in and playing about every other year or two, and we're winning 10 games a year. So, why do we need to change it? What's wrong with college football?
Your answer, you mentioned some of the challenges in our sport, transfer portal being one of them, NIL being one of them, opt-outs being another. If you were to start to address some of the issues in college football, where would you start?
Well, I think you have to create a balance between how much do you take and how much do you give.
Okay.
We're giving people scholarships. We're creating name, image, and likeness opportunities. But what is their commitment? I mean, there's no place in the world where you don't have a contract. If you're going to receive benefits,
Very interesting. Listen, guys, fan or not, I don't care. Okay? I don't care. You don't have to be a fan of Alabama to appreciate the love of college football. I do too. We cover Georgia and Alabama and Auburn. We got them over here too. We cover the SEC in general. But he's talking about, what is the game really, what is it going to be? Now, he talked about wanting to play a 9-game conference game schedule, like 10 years ago, nearly 7, 8 years ago. And people kind of laughed and, it wasn't a big deal. And then the Big Ten goes to it, and ACC, everybody's going to go to this now and play 9 conference games. And that's why 9 conference games, there's never been a champion here since this playoff stuff that's played 9 conference games. And they say, well, that's because they play the extra game. But just adding an extra game, that don't make your schedule any tougher, because who are you adding? Is it somebody relative, somebody ranked? Because the whole deal with the 8-game conference was that we have 2 outside teams, like you would play in Oregon or Penn State. But, what he's saying is, what's really the whole idea about it? What is the value that the game is given to the kids? And what is the kids given to make the game valuable? So playing that extra conference game, is it going to make value, to the schedule? He's always thinking ahead. And these type of things he says, that's why I like to play this. You'll go back and watch this 5 years from now and say, see, I told you. And he's fixing to bring up something very, very cool. And Klatt kind of brings it up, but Saban tops off what Klatt didn't want to say, I feel like. Talking about union.
have a contract and an obligation to do a certain job. So when you can opt out, transfer, do whatever you want, whenever you want, I'm not sure the balance is quite right. I know there's a lot of people out there that are much more qualified than me that are trying.
I don't know why he says that. He says that like he's trying to be humble, but I think he's just trying to pass the buck because he don't want to be quoted, because he knows this video is going to go viral and everybody's going to be talking about it all week long. They're going to pull clips from it and play it all over ESPN because there's nothing going on right now. We're in between, college softball's over, baseball is right in kind of middle of stuff, USFL is kind of getting down. They'll play the 1st of July, so there's just not a lot going on. So everybody this week is going to pull these clips, and he knows that. So he'll say, well, somebody, more qualified than me should probably talk about this. Don't pass the buck, Nick. People respect your opinion. You're regarded highly. You don't have to pass the buck and say, well, somebody that knows more about this than me, or, well, I'm just really not qualified. Sure, you're qualified. You've been coaching played high school and involved in football and either playing it or coaching it for 60 years. So, I mean, since he was a kid. His dad coached Pop Warner teams up there where they were from. So I think he's highly qualified to have it. Everybody's entitled to their opinion, but I would surely value the opinion of somebody that's been fooling around with something for 60 years, wouldn't you? So let's get back in here and see what he has to finish say about kids getting scholarships. Hey, you do have something you've gained. And you're going to get paid, but they're getting paid before they play. So does it make it worth anything?
Trying to figure out how do we fix this. But I think we do need to create some balance, because I think at the end of the day, when you create an atmosphere where somebody's tentatively committed to what they're trying to accomplish, you have to evaluate, is that really a good thing?
Sure.
Because we all need to be totally committed to whatever, our goals and aspirations are, the sense of purpose that we have, if we're going to have a chance to be successful.
Along those lines, do you think it would help if the players were organized so that they could be collectively bargained with, so that some of those contractual obligations could take place?
I think that it never scares me that people are organized.
Now, he's got to say the right things there, because he has a lot of young men that play for him, and they like to be able to participate in their organizations and have a voice on things going on that they feel like that affects them in their lives. Hey, more power to them. That's fine. They can do what, it's a free country, thank God. But you start putting unionized people, and hey, Lane Kiffin said it too. He said, this is pro football. It's free agency. You're paying players to actually play football, and they can move around when they want, pretty much. I mean, there's deadlines, but come on, guys. I mean, just pay attention. Just listen close here.
I think there's some good in that. I think, General Motors and the automotive industries had unions for a long time, and they survived fairly well, I think. So, but there's a lot of people who are a little skeptical,
Right.
And I can understand why, that you make college student athletes employees. And I think when you organize them, that's maybe what the ultimate result, may be. So, and I can't honestly say that I'm qualified to know exactly what the cause and effect of that would really be.
Right.
Sure he is.
The adjustments in this sport are ongoing, and they have been, throughout time. There's an old expression, there's nothing new under the sun. And throughout time, coaches have had to adjust, whether it's on the field or off the field, how they're operating in order to be successful. I would make the argument no one's done that better than you. If you look at the history of our sport, Coach, very rarely do we see coaches win over cycles of recruits or cycles of style of football on the field. You have done that, both at LSU, now at Alabama. I'm curious, what are you adjusting to and evolving with currently, whether it's on the field or off the field?
Well, I think you're in a constant, you have to be flexible, number one. And I think if you're flexible, then you have a willingness to adapt.
Mm-hmm.
And I think your willingness
Let's hear that one more time. Let's hear
to
that again.
adapt is really, really important, because things are changing. I mean, just in the last
Hear that one more
15
time.
Whether it's on the field or off the field.
Well, I think you're in a constant, you have to be flexible, number one. And I think if you're flexible, then you have a willingness to adapt.
If you're flexible, you have the willingness to adapt. Now, you could take and put this as in any part of your life that you want to. It don't have to be football. Hey, kids watching, high school kids learning new things and new subjects and material, and you're fixing to go out into the world, and the new graduates just graduated high school. That's good advice. Those little nuggets right there, you have to be able to be flexible if you have the willingness to adapt and to stay competitive. Saban's done it just as good as anybody. I mean, from the style of football that has been played now, it's completely different than it was when he first started at Alabama. It's different now than it was even 5-6 years ago. So you got to be willing to maneuver yourself into what schemes are popular and the kids that you're going to recruit. That's important. You got to be able to recruit the kids that can play the game. You can't go back to run the wishbone. Where you going to get players to run the wishbone?
And I think your willingness to adapt is really, really important because things are changing. I mean, just in the last 15 years, we never had RPOs before. We never had advantage throws. We never had fastball offenses like we have now. So, and all those things create advantages, but they also create adaptations that are necessary for the other side of the ball.
Defense.
And
So he's a defense guy.
so that's just on the field. Off the field, you've already talked about all the things we've had to adapt to, whether it's transfer portal, whether it's name, image, and likeness, whether it's expanded playoffs, whether it's, bowl games not being as significant as they were before and guys opting out of playing in them. Um, so there's a lot of changes that are ongoing
Mhm.
that you have to adapt to. And I think that rather than complain about it, which a lot of people sit around and complain, complaining is actually a distraction.
Another nugget, guys. I hope there's some young people listening. What did he just say? Let me just back that up just a little bit. Let's just hear it again. Just listen.
Changes that are ongoing
Mhm.
that you have to adapt to. And I think that rather than complain about it, which a lot of people sit around and complain, complaining is actually a distraction to the solution. And
Complaining is a distraction to the solution. I say it all the time. If you're not going to be part to help what's going on, you're either part of doing it better and helping it, or you're part of the problem. Because it's either one of the two. You're part of the solution, or you're part of the problem. My younger days, coach around here in the area, I always had some people that would like to come up and say things and about how things maybe should be done or whatever. I always had the idea that, hey, if you got these great ideas, would you love to come help coach? And then I usually get, well, I'm busy. Well, then shut up. Don't come and tell me how I need to do something. And hey, I'll take some help. I'm willing. I'm not the best at this. So let's just hear that. Let's just go hear that one more time. I'm going to hear that one more time. That's just good advice.
So there's a lot of changes that are ongoing
Mhm.
that you have to adapt to. And I think that rather than complain about it, which a lot of people sit around and complain, complaining is actually a distraction to
Complaining
the solution.
is a distraction to the
And
solution.
I think that you got to spend most of your time trying to figure out what is the solution, how can we adapt. And most of the time it comes down to if we can do a better job from a relationship standpoint and build a program that creates more value for the players.
There's that value word again. So you're either part of the solution or you're part of the problem. And in being part of the solution, you have to work at it. You've got to be part of something that's moving forward to help. And if you're not, then you're just part of the problem. You're no different. You're just standing over there talking. Those parents had always had something to say about how I should do something or how things should be done. And when I ask them to help, they're too busy. That's the problem. That's always a problem. If you see something needs to be done, just do it. Put you a group together. You see the town's dirty, you want to go pick up garbage. Don't complain about the road being dirty. Go get a bag and go pick it up. Okay?
Then they're going to be happier here. They're going to want to stay here. They're going to buy into the fact that long term, I can create more value for myself by staying here in the program. And that's the way we've tried to look at all these challenges to try to, improve the quality of the program that we have.
And you're coming off a highly successful recruiting class. Not that that's new here at Alabama, but that speaks to the ability to adjust and more so the willingness to adjust in the current environment in recruiting.
Well, but the whole idea of evaluating recruiting classes. Um, so if you had a litter of puppy dogs, how would you sit there and look at them and say which ones are going to be the best dogs and which one of them aren't? Which one of them are going to be the best hunting dog and which one of them aren't? I don't know. And I don't know who's making those evaluations. So
Now, he knows what he's saying. He knows who makes the valuations 24/7, CBS and Rivals.com. Those are the guys that go watch these kids play, and their opinions weigh super heavy on how a kid is recruited because it puts stars by their name. Now, I've given this stat before, and we gave about a month ago on the show during the draft, during April. The majority of NFL draft players are 3 stars. Yeah, it's 2 times the amount of 4s and almost 3 times that of 5s. So who puts that value on the players? And how they recruit them is if he's going to go and look at a kid, well, he's going to probably want to spend more time looking at a 5-star than he thinks was a 2. But, man, they could be some kids out there. And you want to get a 2-star kid that's just hungry and he wants it and he shows up every day and he is good and you believe in him and he just needs a little bit of confidence. That's all he needs. He knows what he's saying. He knows who makes those rankings for high school players.
So how accurate is it? Because really,
it's not very accurate. It's not. I just told you, go look it up. I'm not just saying this just to say whatever. Go look up the number of draftees. What stars are drafted the most? Just look it up.
the proof is in the pudding once the players get here, because the focus has to be on their development.
Sure.
And what do they develop into?
Sure.
So, and that's what we try to stay focused on. And, and I always wonder, does it enhance somebody's recruiting evaluation if they get recruited by the Alabamas and Georgias and Texas of the world, or how does that work? I've just never been.
Those
I've never been
ratings do
able
tend to increase, don't they?
I've never ever quite figured that out. But
Once
it's
a letter
certainly
from
great
you
for
comes,
you all to be able to have a recruiting service that you
Sure.
can talk about for.
If you missed that part, what he's saying is somehow a kid becomes better because he goes to Alabama, Georgia, or Clemson. Somehow, I don't know how that works, because if he goes to, let's say if he goes to Texas Tech, he's a pretty good player. But if he goes to Bama, have you seen this guy? Have you seen this Arch Manning guy go to Tech? Have you heard about him? I'm just saying. And he's the king of the castle, and he's calling people out. It has to do with him.
2 hours and rank and rate people and make predictions and all that.
evaluate coaches.
Yeah, and then you don't have to live with the consequences or anything. It's just a lot of fun.
That's true.
Yeah.
Oh, that's very true.
Yeah. I want to be be like you
Oh, no,
someday,
come
so
on
I can do
over,
that.
right?
Right here, this is where it kind of gets. Now, I know they're 2 guys, and they're joking, but Saban kind of gives it a little bit. He kind of jabs at him and saying, "Y'all don't understand. I want to be like you. I want to be a reporter where I don't have to, get criticized." Well, that's not true, because the media gets criticized by you coaches, but they're kind of having a little fun. But I like it. Klatt, he jabs back a little bit. Watch this.
Don't ever have to play the game. Don't ever have to win. Don't ever have to lose. Just
You would. I would. Here, let me give you a slight pushback. Those of us who have played and love it, like my dad was a high school football coach. I love competing. I happened to go into this industry. I always thought I was going to be a coach. Just like you thought you were going to be in insurance. Until Don James said, you're going to be my GA. I thought I was going to be a coach, and this kind of found me. To be honest with you, what the worst part is on Saturday is that I don't have an outcome.
That's very interesting. The point Saban made about the unionized stuff, and Klatt making the point about I don't have an end game. I don't really have a results. I guess I do. Did I cover the game well? I don't have a scoreboard that says I won or I lost. So those are the 2 of the biggest reasons I wanted to do a reaction to this video. Very good point. Let's back that up just a second here.
Hey, I thought I was going to be a coach, and this kind of found me. To be honest with you, what the worst part is on Saturday is that I don't have an outcome, and there's no locker room at the end of the game. And that's something that I still long for, because there is a chase in my industry as well, where I'm preparing for the game as best I can to serve not only the teams and the programs on both sides, but the fan bases. And then the lights turn out and you just go get on an airplane.
So I'm going to ask you the same thing I ask our players.
Okay.
I ask them, why'd you come to Alabama? They tell me they want to graduate. They want to play in the NFL and all that. And you know what my next question is? Do you understand what that entails? All right. So you got this nice job that you have right now.
That's right.
And you want to be in the locker room and you want to compete. You want to have an outcome. All right. But do you understand what that entails?
Let's see. I don't know if Saban just wasn't paying attention. And I think because he felt like Joel threw a little. Joel kind of moved around. Saban took a swing and kind of popped. Joel kind of ducked it, popped him on top of the head. Joel come back up and he feathered off a little jabs there. And Saban kind of felt him fly by his face, and he come back and countered him, hit him a little right, the ball in the chin. Didn't connect real good. I don't know if he wasn't listening, but Joel, yes, he does know what it's like to be in the locker room. And he's, of course, he's going to say, well, do you know what it takes? That's what he said. Do you know what it takes to be a part of that, to get there, to do that? Do you know what it takes to do it? Well, you knew what you were doing when you got into coaching. You're going to spend time away from your family. You're not going to see them a lot. You're going to be busy for at least 10 months out of the year. So I know they're just kind of throwing jabs and they're just kind of being funny, but I thought it's pretty interesting right there.
They weren't playing in the NFL and all that. And you know what my next question is? Do you understand what that entails? All right. So you got this nice job that you have right now.
That's right.
And you want to be in the locker room and you want to compete. You want to have an out.
Watch your body language, because before Joel got done, Saban was moving his face and he's bobbing his foot and his arms are crossed. He's kind of aggravated. And now Joel, look at Joel. His feet are squirming and he's smiling. He's being funny. But see how he's got his hands laid over top of each other? He's a little aggravated by Saban's comment here.
Outcome. But do you understand what that entails?
I do.
Are you willing to work from 7 in the morning to 10 o'clock at night, 4 or 5 days a week, not be around your kids very much, don't see them grow up, or any of that?
And that's what I was unwilling to do. Right. And so mine was a whole family decision for me in terms of the industry.
I just wanted to make sure everybody was clear on that.
Crystal, I love it. That's amazing. Okay. Last thing that I wanted to touch on before we get out of here. You have a great grasp of the sport overall. And I'm not talking about on the field. I'm talking about the overarching sport. You've been very humble in saying that you don't have the qualifications for certain conversations, but I'm always so fascinated with what you say about the sport, because it seems like at the heart of it, you have the sport globally and what's best for it at heart. Are you ever conflicted at any point between what's good for the sport overall and what's good specifically for Alabama?
I think he generally, and look, guys, I can say it 100 times. I think I opened up with this. I think he does. I think he genuinely cares. All we can do is go by actions. All we can go by is what we've seen Saban do. And what we've seen him do is give coaches, grown men with a lot of personal problems, chance after chance. I mean, who you want to go back to, from Dooley to, of course, Lane and deal he had. He got left at the airport. And, of course, Steve Sarkisian and Coach Cochran, the strength coach that we only found out about after he left and went to Georgia. That's why he let him go. He was having a lot of drinking problems, and Kirby said, "Well, I'll take him with me, and I think we can make a spot." And so let's just, all we can go by is, does he really have a genuine care about people? I'm just asking that question. Does Saban really care about people? It seems like he does. They may come across as brash and bold sometimes, but when you just have to be around those kind of people, man. And when you're around those kind of people, they have a different aura about them. When we had Coach Probst here, Coach Probst come in, and This is one of the only places during the state that he even sat down and did an interview with. Him being here in my house, he has that that aura. He's just, it's the competitiveness, it just win. He wants to win, and he gets the best out of people, and you just have this thing about a respect for him. And personal things aside, and Coach Saban's personal political views, if people probably knew more about it, they probably wouldn't like him at all, especially in this state. But that's neither here nor there. The point is, does he really care for the game of football? And by judging by how he treats people and coaches and kids, it seems like he does. And he has this stigma about him. So on the next idea, does he have a cure for the kids? I think the Tony Mitchell kid that got pulled over and busted, I think he's going to get out. I think he's been reinstated on the team. I probably need to look that up to be more sure before I go running off the mouth. But I think he's put him back on the team. And there's 100 other cases about kids that should be kicked off the team. So I say all that, just to say this. I think he does. Now, you can comment below, hit the subscribe button, and become a member here of the Matt and Todd Show, live every Sunday nights at 6. Comment and say, hey, no, I think Saban's a piece of crap. I don't think he has the best interest of the game. I think he only cares about what goes on at his school that he works for. That's fine. You can think what you want. But these are some good questions, and we're just going to have a few more minutes here, and we'll be done.
Well, if you would ask anybody else in our profession, they would answer that yes, because they think that everything that I say about the sport globally is to benefit Alabama, which is not really true. What I think, we have a great sport, and I think it's been great for a lot of people for a lot of years, including myself, when I had the opportunity to play for Don James, who had a great impact on my life.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even got me headed in a direction that has been, something that I've enjoyed tremendously for many, many years. So I do look at the sport and the big picture of the sport and what's best for the sport, and not just for football, but what are the consequences of some of the things that we're doing now if we continue down this road, and how it impacts other sports, and how it impacts opportunities for other people to play other sports that may not be revenue producing sports, but yet for many, many years have created opportunities for people to get an education,
Yep.
to better their quality of life down the road, and have a chance to compete as college student athletes. I mean, I don't know, how does that impact all of them? So I really do try to think about what's best for the sport. And I mean, we have to deal with name, image, and likeness now. But when we started this a few years ago, and I said, is this what we want college football to become? I got criticized for saying that. And now people are saying, whoa, maybe we should be looking at this a little closer.
And he wanted to play 9 conference games because he knew that if they ever went to a playoff, he knew that was going to happen. If they ever went to a 4, it's only a matter of time. He's been doing this a long time before it's going to go to a 6, 8, or 12. So you knew that you needed to have it a strength of schedule. Well, here's the problem. We're going to play 8 conference games, and I've mentioned this 10 times. I'm beating a dead horse. 8 conference games, but you have to play 2 other Power 5 teams. Well, when you go to pick up that phone there and you want to call up another coach, not all. Coach? Yes, this is Coach Saban here. What's going on? Yeah, we're looking to schedule one up. This is 23, so probably 2026. We'd like to try to get in a home and away with you. Oh, you're booked till 2030. That's a big problem, and it's not just him. Just typically the past. Remember who's been winning the titles. It's hard to get games. It happens in high school football everywhere. Sometimes it's hard to get games, and some coaches are either scared to play those games or whatever it is, or they know they don't have it's not scared. That's a bad word. They're not going to be at the advantage to win because they know their roster is thinner this year. Then they know they can build to something, may want to play that game later. And that's why you're not being able to get all these games. So As he said then, this is continuations of talking about the future. Hey, we need to go ahead and start playing that non-conference games now because we need to have strength of schedule because we're not going to always be able to get the games that we want to play a full schedule because sometimes you can't get people to play. So not every year we're not going to get Texas always. We're not always going to get Oregons. We're not always going to get Penn States or UCLA's or whatever. So if we can't get them, then let's just get them to come join us. So then that way we have them on the conference. They're in the conference. So then we can add a 9-game conference schedule and we have an Oklahoma or Texas. That's the process behind this. It's making your resume look better. So when you go up there and slap down that paper and say, I want to be in the college football playoff, and they go look at it, you can have a reason to why. So this NIL stuff, he said, hey, look, I don't think this is what you want to do. It's not a good idea, guys. I'm just telling you. And what's happening, it's not what people thought it was going to be. And you have kids getting paid before they even play a game. Michael Jordan said it. He said, what are we doing? He said, it's lost. The value of the game is lost. The first time you pay a player before he plays, the value is gone because he's getting paid for something he ain't even done yet. I wished I got paid before I had to go feed the chickens in the morning. I had to go feed chickens in the morning early to go to trade day 2 or 3 hours later to get a pocket knife. I didn't get took to buy a pocket knife and then come back home to the work. And I didn't raise mine that way neither. It's just not how it works. And he's trying to tell you that it's not just about the money. And y'all think it's just about winning all these big football games, and that's fine. And people can think what they want to about him or the university, and that's fine. It just seems like he's trying to build good young men. And it's going to take more than that. It's going to take more than just being able to pay these kids before they even play a game. You're going to have to really work at it. There's a lot of challenges involved. And the game's kind of passing him by a little bit. It's still good to have some of that old school stuff around. It is. But it's going away. And the ones that hang on to it sometimes lose out. And that's just the way it is. So, are we ready? And he told them, are we ready? This is what you want to do.
Because, maybe this isn't what we want college sports to become.
Do you think we need more parity in our sport? You guys have been dominant. There's other teams that are also dominating at times. Would you like to see more parity? And do you think that that's coming with the expanded playoff?
Well, I think all leagues want to create parity. If you look at the NFL, they would love for everybody to be 8-8 going into the 17th game of the season because every fan base and every city would be excited about what's the outcome of the next game. So parity creates a lot of excitement. I think it's harder to do in college football because we have so many different teams.
This is another one. I hope y'all are still watching. This is a good video. I know it's kind of got long, but he's just bringing up some good points. He's fixing to get into something here that is totally changes the whole idea of how you think about how you can tell he's thought about this. Okay, he's coached pro football. He's been around football again. He's been around doing this for like 50, 60 years. He's been around the game. The pro teams, there's one division of pro, NFL. There's AFC and there's NFC. And then you have East, North, South, West, how they got laid up here. In college, there's 1As and 1AAs, division 1s, 2s, and 3s. There's so many layers for football from small colleges all the way up to the big dogs, to the Georgias, Ohio States, Clemson's, Bama's, Texas, etc. So if we're going to have this NIL and this parity, because we're supposed to be able to make things equal, there's no way. I don't care who you are. Come on here and comment. Please tell me. Because that guy right there don't know it either. There's no way that you create parity for a team like this little Raging Cajuns sign I got over here that you can't see. There's no way they can compete. They can't even compete with LSU, a team in their state. They can't compete. Our team, like one of my son's classmates, Corey, he's at Lindsey Wilson. How can Lindsey Wilson, college up Kentucky there, how can they compete with Kentucky? They can't. It's the money. There's a huge money difference. Did I say there's a difference in players? Sometimes not. Guys, there's some fantastic players that played at small colleges, and they get overlooked because the big schools get the TV time. So to create parity, you've got to talk about TV deals. You got to talk about, we're talking about money. And Raging Cajuns, even UAB, it's getting a little more now. You get them on ESPN Plus or something. And with JSU kind of moving up in division, they're going to get some more TV time. But how can you create an equality for college football when there's FCSs and FBS teams, divisions 1 through 3, 1As and double A's? It can't be like people just want to throw this idea out there and just put it down. Well, we'll just make a playoff and we'll just make it more like college, football. Guys, please don't forget. Sorry, ladies. There's also other sports in college. Professional leagues, these up here on the wall. That's just football. You're trying to take a plan in a book that you have. It's basically one page. It's the NFL. You got this one page here. In college, you got 18, 20 pages. So you're trying to take this one page model and turn this 18 page completely different ball of weights. You're going to take all that and take this model and put it in these 18 pages. Or you might as well say this whole book. Because what about softball, rowing, volleyball, track and field, golf, tennis? There can't be the same model laid out to have parity and have equality in college sports. And you're going to model it after this up here, the NFL. There's no way. Maybe you could take some of the ideas, and they're doing it, from the pro and put it on the college with just the football. But what about the other parts of college? And he's going to get in here talking about parity, and it's just, there's no way. There's just no way. I don't care what you say. It's no way.
And the fundamentals are different at the University of Alabama and as opposed to another school. And I don't want to mention another school, but a 1AA school, a Division II school, even a lower half, Division I school.
Why is it different? What is he talking about? Well, just what I just said. I'll use high school, for example. I'm around that more than at college games. If you're at a 7A school and you got a kid acting like something, you know what? You know what you do? See, buddy, you're done. You know what happens at a small 1 or 2A school? You got to try to hold your team together, and you can't let bad kids, because one bad will ruin the whole team. But it's just nearly hard to run a kid off, from a team when you're at a small school. You're at a big school, you got 5 other guys standing over there waiting to go. 1, 2As, maybe some 3As even, maybe small 3A schools. You got to keep them around. The rules are different. It don't apply the same as it does at Alabama as it does at Lindsey Wilson again. You can't. You don't have the number of players. It's not the same. The colleges, Alabama's huge. It's a huge Division I school. Texas, Georgia, Auburn, huge schools.
Money's different. The dynamics are different. The investment that's made in the athletes and the program are different, and the value created for the athletes is different. So it's not all the same. So if we want to create parity, we would have to take, okay, this is a group of 60 teams or however many, I don't know what the number is, and these are the 4 or 5 leagues that we're going to have, and we may consolidate them. and we're going to try to create parity in a more refined group.
Sure.
I don't think that's the only way. That's probably the only way that you could accomplish that. But in the NFL, if you lose, you draft early. If you win, you draft late. You play a harder schedule if you win. You play an easier schedule if you lose.
But guys, you got to remember too how much part of the schedule overturns every year. Deion Sanders, you go find Joel Klatt. He did an interview with Coach Sanders also, and they got talking about some of this too. The overturn in the NFL is Deion. I'm going to take his. He played pro football. He says about 30% of the players there's an overturn in football, pros, and in college he's saying that it could be about 60%. So about twice the numbers to go from college to pro. And why that's important to say is in NFL you can kind of run with something. You can have some kind of consistency to something. If you make a rule or a plan, it kind of goes. But with college, there's kids coming and going. Okay? And if it's going to be about money and NIL, again, ladies, I think y'all were very qualified to have NIL deals also. You can have those deals. The girls on the swim team, they're, great, and they can go out and use their name and their image. They can make a commercial for Canon cameras. Look at this beautiful smile this lady has here, swimmer or volleyball player. She can have an NIL deal. Why can't she? And those are the things that are not being talked about that we're trying to make, again, this one-page cookie-cutter type thing because it's just pro football. It's just those teams. And in college, you have this whole huge book. You can't. It's just not the same. The rules are not the same. Things are not the same. How players come and go is not the same. They're under contract, and these kids are being given an opportunity to add value to their life by having a degree. And obviously the degree has become worthless. Is it worthless? I don't know. Is it?
So, all those things rules are for parity.
Yeah.
So that there's interest. So our fan base, they want to dominate. So my job is to try to create a program here where we have the best chance to succeed and have success relative to the competition. But I think even in the SEC, when you add Texas and Oklahoma, there's going to be more parity because there's probably going to be 6, 7 teams ranked in the top 20
Sure.
that are going to be playing each other. So, but the problem with the way the whole system is, there's no accounting for that.
Right.
So all we do is take the teams that win the most games at the end of the year and put them in the playoffs. But do you really get the best teams? When they told me that we would be favored against 3 out of the 4 teams that got in the playoffs, I'm like, well, why aren't we in the playoffs?
Sure.
Does that mean they have a better team? Or does it mean that those people don't know what they're talking about? I really don't know that. But, and I'm not being critical of anybody, but if you're going to have parity, you have to have a better way of figuring out who has the best teams, not just because you lose 2 games on the last play of the game.
Yeah.
That knocks you out when you may be better than somebody else who didn't have the same circumstances that they had to play in.
Coach.
Of course he's going to say that. I mean, and I know people right now, Auburn fans are going to say, I just done but a crybaby. He's still crying about this. It's crap. Tennessee fans, I know. I feel your pain. But it is what it is. Now, he didn't tell a lie. He's just simply saying we got to figure it out. Because obviously, did anybody enjoy the national championship game? Even Georgia fans, honestly, just be honest. Benton, guys, Uncle Lou, did you really enjoy? I mean, it was just by the end of the first quarter, before the end of the first quarter, I knew That's not even going to be a good game. It's terrible. It was just nearly as bad as Notre Dame showing up down there in Miami that night that Alabama put the thumping on when Eddie Lacy went nuts on Otatao, one of the worst linebackers ever played the game, that got overhyped because of a catfishing story. Fake people. So to wrap all this up, we'll get off here. Guys, there's a lot of good points in there. I think I made a lot of good points too. We appreciate the heck out of you. And go watch the other one, Joel Klatt doing the Deion Sanders interview. Really good video. Really good. Coach Sanders is great. And go find the Well Off Media too. Go check them out. Go see how they're working out, see what their players look like. Before you start saying they're going to lose. They're going to lose a bunch of games. And if they win 2, I'll be surprised. Just go look and watch how they're working out. But that's enough about this one. We'll cut this off. Appreciate you guys. And I may see you back on here in a day or two. We'll see what kind of news comes out. Have some golf news. It gets over with. And we'll talk about that probably through the week too. But I may do that one with Dion and Joel. May just do a reaction on that. So anyway, appreciate you guys. Thank y'all.